pivot tables are by far the epitome of summarization. When you have data such as this, and I'll explain what it is in just a second here, but when you have data like this, and you're just looking at it row after row after row, very hard to tell what it's really trying to tell you here. Hard to get your arms around it, hard to make heads or tails of it, however you want to look at it. I can tell that I've got some good numbers in there. I can see that they're all happening, next year, and I can see the different companies and so forth. But other than that, it's just, to me, it just goes on and on. So, if in order to be able to get your arms around it, what you're going to have to do is use the pivot table tool to make that happen. What we can do is we can summarize this data in a number of different angles or ways to where you can get the big picture or the little picture or both, but just to get more out of it than what you are getting just by staring at it. Now, what this data is submissions by our various sales reps as to who they're hoping to sell to in certain categories of services or what have you, all right, for next year. And they're looking to do this forecasted amount. Now, they might do more or less, but this is what they're hoping to do. And they're figuring that there's a probability of them making this sale with these different percentages. Now, if we take the forecast times the probability, we end up with the weighted forecast. What's kind of interesting about this is that if you have some pretty sharp people that can come up with these estimates, especially with the probability here, chances are that by the end of 2020, if you were to add up the weighted forecast, what they would have done by the end of that year is something around this, if not more. And only that, I'm saying this because this is something that I know a lot of people use in this, somewhere in this family of calculations where they can get a pretty good idea of what to expect next year. There are people in any company that are in charge of sales, and they usually have to report to the owner, president, or whoever, and give them an estimate as to what they think is going to happen next year. And this is how we get that estimate. All right. But again, I just want to say this again. If the reps can come up with some pretty good information and pretty accurate information, especially with the probability, by the end of the year, the company as a whole will have done, in most cases, better than this and close to that. So this is almost what they can expect minimally, for next year, but it could be anywhere from there up to this point here. See? Okay. So let's say we want to do our first summary, and let's say we want to kind of focus on the reps. We want to get an idea of who the reps are that we have and what they're expecting to do as a total for next year. All right. So in other words, go through there and find all of Jagger, all of Fuller, all of Kingsley's forecasted dollar amounts, add them all together and put that as their total, and do that for each one of the reps. It's about 15 reps that we have here. All right. We could do the same thing with the category. We could do the same thing with the customer, whatever. But we're going to start with the sales rep here. So the first thing that you want to consider, and we talked about this in the database videos, is that you have to make sure that your data is laid out properly. It's normalized. And what we mean by that, no blank rows, no blank columns, all right? You can have blank cells, but no blank columns or rows. That first row has to be your field names, and then the remaining rows then would be the actual data. So if you have that, you're set, and we have that here. So now what we'll do is we're going to go into the Insert tab, go over here to Pivot Table, all right? And here is what it's going to be summarizing on, which is going to be this range here. All right, it's going to be putting the pivot table onto its own sheet, and then we're going to start out doing that. But there's nothing wrong with putting it onto the same sheet. It's just that if you plan on having 5, 10, 15 different pivot tables, this is going to get a little crowded. Might be better off if you had each of those pivot table designs on its own sheet. I mean, we have up to about, what, 256 sheets that we can have per spreadsheet file. Why not take advantage of that, right? And plus, too, you can name the sheets and keep it really organized. All right, so this looks good. Nothing to do here other than just hit OK. What that does, it brings you into a new sheet, as you'll see down here. This was our original area that we launched from, and then this is what it created. Over on the right-hand side are all your different fields or columns. So all the columns that we had here, those are all now in this list here. And then in order to design or to put together the pivot, we just drag specific fields into these different areas. And as we go through each of these videos and you see different examples and so forth, you'll see exactly when you should be dragging it maybe into the row versus the column versus the values versus the filters. You'll see all that as we go along here. But right now, all we're concerned with is we want to get a nice little simple list of each of our sales reps, kind of like along the side here, and then their total forecasted dollar amount that they're hoping to do next year. So we go and we find our sales rep field. There it is. Now watch this. We drag this. We just kind of point to it and drag it into the rows. We let go, and look at that. Nice little summarization. No duplicates, just one each of the reps, all listed there. Now watch this. We're going to take that forecasted dollar amount, all right? We're going to drag that into the summary area. That's where we summarize or add up our numbers or do whatever we're doing to the numbers. That's where it's done at. So you drag it down into there, you let go, and there it is. So each of those numbers represents the total dollars that they're hoping to sell next year, regardless of who the company is or what the service is that they're hoping to sell. It's all right there. Now, if you want to go a step further, we can see what are the specific companies that each of those reps is hoping to sell into and have those numbers displayed, and then have the numbers that you see right now almost like the subtotal of those numbers, all right? All done for you automatically. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find the customer field right here. We're going to drag that into the sales rep area underneath it, let go, and there you go. Now, if you happen to drag it wrong and you drag it, let's say, and you maybe put it above the sales rep, you see where I'm at there, and let go, it would have done that. Would that have been a disaster? No. All you have to do, because that's not, what you're looking at right there is not any kind of a summary. It's stupid. So we're going to take this field right here, and we're going to drag it underneath the sales rep, because what we want to do is we want to take the sales rep and break it down into the different companies, right? So we let go on that, and it switches it around. Pretty good. The other thing that you might think about doing is the numbers are a little bit hard to read because they don't have commas in them, right? And we're kind of used to that. So we're going to very quickly format these. Now, we're not going to format them the traditional way where we go to the Home tab and go into the number area and do that. We want to basically format the field itself. And the field, what we mean by that is the forecast field. And by doing it that way, later on when the design of and the layout of the pivot table change, because maybe you're moving things around, you won't risk the chance of losing some of that formatting, all right? So you're better just to format the field, in my opinion, than to just go and kind of blanket it like you normally would by just dragging it like this and going up there and doing that. So it doesn't take much more time to do this. What you'll do, though, is you'll point to any one of the numbers, all right? You'll do a right click on it, and there's a choice there called Value Field Settings. You'll click onto that, all right? And down here, you see something called number format. So you click onto that. And here are your different formats. So we're going to go with the number format. We're going to tell it no decimal places, and we want a comma separator. We hit OK on that. And there you go. All set, ready to go. Now, what I'd like to do is dig into this a little bit deeper and see what months they were looking to get these numbers from. Because right now, I can't tell, when I look at the 127,000, I have no idea when that sale was to occur. Was it January? Was it June? Was it February? Was it November? I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a column, a monthly column layout here. So we'll see like January, February, March, April, May, June going across. Now we do that by taking the when field, and that was, just so you know, that was this one right here. And they're all pretty much November 1st, April 1st. I kind of changed the formatting here a little bit, but basically we couldn't expect our reps to say, oh yes, July 27th, that's when I'm going to make the sale. We're lucky if they're going to get it in July, okay? But we have to go somewhere with it. So we're going to just leave it as just a July of 2020. And July of 2020 is just July, right? That's what we're looking at. So in this case then, we're going to go and we're going to find the when field. There it is, right? We're going to drag that into, now let's take a look. If we drag this into the columns area, now watch. You let go, and now it breaks it down into that. Now, one little minor thing, it's not a big deal, but there's a lot of extra space up here. And mainly because what we're really looking at here are each of the months, but within each of the months are the days within the months. Now, as I said before, all the data, or all the dates that are put in there, are all just the first of the month. That's it. But if for some reason you had the 1st, the 3rd, the 8th, whatever, right? If you clicked onto one of these little pluses here, obviously it's very small there, but if you were to click onto it, it would then show you the 1st, the 3rd, the 8th, or whatever. Because they're all on the 1st, this is all you're going to get. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't need that. I just need to know it's January, February, March. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that breakdown, and just so it will have just January, February, March, and so forth. Now to do that, while we're in the pivot and we're on the month there, we go up here in the pivot table tools and we click on to analyze. All right. And within analyze, we have this thing here called group field. All right. Almost looks like a calendar there, right? So group field. And we're going to tell it that we don't care about the day breakdown. All we care about is just months. So we get rid of days by just clicking onto it. Make sure that months is selected there. That's all you got to do. You hit OK, and it just kind of cleans it up a little bit. Gets rid of an extra row there. Another little thing is the font. Now right now, the font that we're using here is, let me take a look at here, we go to home here, is the Calibri font. This is kind of like the default font within the world of Microsoft at the time. And I really prefer more of a non-proportional type font. And what I mean by non-proportional, proportional is when you look at Familia here, the letter I, the letter A, the letter F, they all have different widths. If you go with the non-proportional, like the Courier font, it lines up better, I think. It just looks better overall. Just my opinion, all right? But I want to change the whole worksheet to that font. So we're going to go back and click onto the select all button right here. This is right above number 1 right here. It looks like a little triangle there. You click it, that selects everything, all right? Then we can go up into our font area, all right? We can go down there, we can find the Courier new font, this one right here. Click it, changes it up a little bit. I'm not going to worry about the size. I'm not going to change that. I think that's okay. So there we go. So as you can see, to me, it just looks clear, it looks cleaner. Another thing we might want to do is kind of get the labels centered here, get them kind of looking a little bit nicer there. What you can do, and this is actually very, what I'm about to show you, just kind of put this one on the back of your heads. This is a great way of overall just kind of changing the entire environment, the column widths, the centering of labels, all that stuff that's just very tedious to do. The program will actually do it for you automatically. All right. Now to do that, if you go up into the Design tab, I'm sorry, not Design, sorry, go over to Analyze tab. You go to the Analyze tab. Now, depending on how you've got your screen laid out, yours might look a little bit different with the ribbons here. But over here in the pivot table area, if you click onto that, there's a choice there called Options. So on some of your screens, you might go to Analyze and you'll see options right over there without having to click anything. But whatever. So you click on the Options, right? And this very first one where it says Merge and Center Cells with Labels. If we click onto that, I'm going to kind of move this over a little bit here so you can see it. So I click onto that. All right, now watch what happens out here. I hit OK, and there you go. Just gets everything all, I think, a lot better laid out. The other thing that you might think about doing is getting the bordering and coloring and so forth maybe enhanced a little bit. So we're going to go over to the Design tab, all right, and over here in the Styles, if you hit that little More button here, you've got your kind of like your light, kind of wimpy little styles here, all right, and then you have your mediums down here, which are a little bit more darker, a little bit more enhanced. Depending on the mood of your computer, as you hover over these, usually that will update over here. So it's doing it now, see. So they got a little bit here and there with it, right? So I'm going to tell you that usually when you're working with a situation where you've got multiple fields in the rows area here, that the medium looks pretty good. So I'm going to try this blue one here. I'm going to click onto that, and there we go. I mean, that really kind of makes it kind of stand out. To give you a little bit more with the borders and so forth, you can actually go with the banded rows option here. Click onto that, and that does that for you. If you think you might want to do the banded columns, you can do that too, but that might get a little too much in there. The other thing you can do too is if you want to put some extra space between each of these groups, not that it doesn't look good now, but let's just say you want to do that, then all you have to do is go over here where it says blank rows, all right? Click onto that and tell it that you want to insert a blank line, and there it goes, and you'll see all those go in there. So that's pretty cool, all right? All right, now let me change gears here just a little bit and talk about filtering. All right, now filtering, if you've watched other videos, especially in the database area there, filtering lets you kind of home in on certain areas. In other words, right now, we've done the summary. It shows all of our reps, shows all of our months, and then the breakdown by that. Now, let's just say that you would like to maybe focus in on just a few of your reps, not all of them. You don't want to see all of them. So what we would do is, if you look at where it says row labels and column labels, these are the filtering buttons that you have for the months, which is what the columns are, and the row labels, this is the filter for that. So whether it's the rep or the company, this one serves them all. Now, if you want to filter on the rep, all we have to do is we just click on to any one of the reps in here, and that way then the filter button knows that you want to focus on that field and display all the items that are in there. And so that's what we wanted to do. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I'm going to hit the select all, and then I'm going to pick the reps that I want. So I want to go with, let's say, Jagger. Let's say I want to go with Hendricks. And I want to go with, let's say, Uncle Lair. All right, so those three, all right? Hit OK. And there we go. And that's all you see are just those three. On the other hand, if you wanted to see maybe just the first quarter of the year, meaning January, February, March, you go up into the column labels. Now, just because we only have one field in here, meaning it's the win field, I don't have to worry about selecting it. I can just hit the little drop down arrow and there they are. Now I'll hit select all, and then what I'll do is I'll select January, February, March, hit OK, and there we go. So we've really whittled this thing down. I'll show you more with the filtering as we do other videos. We've got quite a few videos pertaining to filtering and the such, so you'll see that later on. But right now, I think just the generalities of it, this is good. Now, if you wanted to clear those filters out, let's say you want to go back to seeing all your months, then what you'll do is you'll click on, by the way, did you notice how we don't have a February? Because there's no February numbers, so therefore it just skips it, doesn't leave it blank. So we're going to hit the filter button, clear filters from when, and there they all come back. And then we're going to go ahead and click on to the drop-down arrow for the row labels, and we're going to say clear the filter from sales rep. And there we are. And now we're back to where we were. Another kind of filter is the one that goes down into here. And what we do is we're going to go ahead and pick a few fields that we want to have as filters. So usually what you'll put into here are fields that aren't already in the pivot, okay? What will happen is if you try to bring in a field that already exists in here, it'll in essence move it from either columns or rows and put it in there for you. So just keep that in mind. We've got options, we've got alternatives that you'll see later on, but right now let's just focus on this. So what we're going to do then is I want to bring in the category. So I'm going to drag that in like that. Now when you do that, you'll see it pop up on the top there. And then I'm also going to bring in the region. So I'm going to drag that in right underneath it. So now we've got those two showing up there. Now what are we going to do with it? Well, of this data, I want to see only, let's say, my legal data. All right. So we're going to go and click on the little drop down arrow. Click on legal. Hit OK. And there it is. Now anybody looking at this will say, oh, this must be your legal category being displayed here, because they can see that up at the top there and see this down here. If I go back there again and hit all, then it goes back to seeing everything. Now if we go to the region filter, hit the drop down there and say, okay, I just want to see the African region. So I click onto that, hit OK, and there we go. So that would be the data pertaining to Africa. So you will look at, or anybody would look at and say, oh, okay, there it is. Looks like we don't have any December data. Looks like we don't have any August data, that type of thing. So a manager looking at this would be able to focus in on and see those kinds of things happening. Then to clear that out, I just go and click onto there, hit the all, hit OK, and there we're back. All right, so that should take care of this portion of what I wanted to show you with the pivot tables. Be sure to watch the subsequent videos to this, because we're going to be modifying this and doing other things with it. But I didn't want this video to get too long here, so we're going to cut it off here. And if you want to continue watching from this point, the next video will continue. Thank you for watching.